said, the virtue, hospitality is the virtue of the great soul that cares for the whole universe through the lens, through the ties of humanity. And I thought, a great soul that cares for the whole universe through humanity. That is God, isn't it? God is the perfect example of hospitality, and he shows his amazing hospitality through creation. We had that reading, didn't we, where God provides everything that we need for life. Now the earth it's exactly as it needs to be habitable. He created us the perfect home. So I'm not a science person at all. I have very little in the way of scientific knowledge, but I did look up some facts about how habitable the earth is and why. So the sun is the perfect star for us. It's exactly the right temperature. If it was any hotter, we would fry. If it was any colder, life would not be able to exist on Earth. Now it does have its fluctuations, but there's something like 0.1%, which makes it relatively stable. So the sun is the perfect star. We have exactly the right amount of water for Earth. And the moon is an exceptionally large natural satellite which stabilises. I didn't know this, I thought this was really interesting. On its rotation axis, without the moon, the Earth would wobble, and we just wouldn't be able to live on it. But the moon helps to stabilise the Earth's wobble on its rotation axis. Now that I think is quite fantastic. We also have the perfect atmosphere for life, and this is another fun fact that I learned that I didn't know about. So plate tectonics is the way that the Earth is covered in different plates that float on magma, that liquid molten stuff underneath the ground that comes out through volcanoes. If we didn't have plate tectonics, the Earth, it's subject to constant erosion, and if there wasn't that room for magma to come up and create new rock forms, the Earth would just erode away and be completely covered by sea. Now you can challenge me on that afterwards, and I will send you to Mr. Google and say, you need to tell Mr. Google he's wrong. But I was really encouraged by all those amazing facts about how wonderful our God is, that he's given us this perfect place to live. And I love Psalm 19 verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of the Lord, and the firmament shows his handiwork. But he's not just the creator, is he? He is involved with his creation. I love in Genesis when we carry on reading that he speaks to Adam and Eve, he gives them guidance about their life, and he walks with them in the garden. I just think that's fabulous. Imagine walking with God in the Garden of Eden. What a beautiful, beautiful picture. Now, as we know, Adam and Eve were not the ideal guests because they blew it, didn't they? And they didn't listen to God, and eventually God asked them to leave the garden because they were not living according to the guidance that he'd given them. And I think it's interesting that after that expulsion from Eden, the story of Israel, God's people, is all about trying to find home again. The promised land, they're always on the search for the promised land. And we know that great journey of Moses leading the people out of Egypt. They're journeying towards the promised land. But as we read on in our Old Testament, we find that the promised land is not quite all we might expect it to be. It's not really a land flowing with milk and honey, is it? And why? Because of sin. They are looking for a place of shalom. I love that word. It's a Hebrew word which is used for a greeting. They use it to say hello and goodbye. And it means peace and complete soundness, welfare, safety and tranquility. But the people of Israel could not find shalom on earth because, let's face it, there is no shalom on earth. So what happens? What happens next in the story? This amazing story of God's story for humanity. Shalom himself comes to earth. Jesus comes to earth. He comes to an inhospitable creation. It's intolerance of scandalous conceptions. There is no room at the inn. There is no welcome from the insecure King Herod, who wants rid of this child that could be a threat to him. So the king has come, but he's not welcome. And we know that, don't we? We go on to read about that in the Gospels. Jesus says quite often when he's preaching, he says the kingdom of God is at hand. So he is the king, and his kingdom is a kingdom of shalom. It's a key phrase from his ministry. So that shalom should mean, and does mean, all the losses of Eden are being restored. Everything is being put back to that perfect, hospitable creation. But that's hard to believe, isn't it? Because we see, when we look around, hatred more than hospitality, and war more than welcome. So how is the kingdom of God at hand? Well, King Jesus, he came to show us the way, didn't he? He came to show us how to live in shalom. But it was more than that. It was more than an illustration, because he conquered sin and death. And he left his spirit to empower us to follow that way, the way of truth and life that he represents. He's more than a puppet king. He's the King of all kings. So we are now subjects of another kingdom. It's not a physical kingdom, it's not a geographical kingdom, it's not a political kingdom. It is a kingdom that is present wherever Christ's authority is recognised and embraced. But we have a part to play in it. We have to enflesh that kingdom. Like Jesus was God incarnate, we must incarnate the kingdom. We have to make it real. And it's a big ask. And we have to remember that we live in an in-between time. Now, but not yet. We have the promises of Jesus now. But eventually they will be fulfilled completely on his return. So we're living in a bit of an in-between time. But it's still a big ask, isn't it? Seems like a bit more than having a neighbour over for coffee in terms of hospitality. To show hospitality, the hospitality and love of Jesus to the whole world. It's a big ask. But the kingdom of heaven, Jesus said, and I love this, is like a mustard seed. Now, have you ever seen a mustard seed? They're really, really super tiny. They're like the smallest of seeds. That they grow into a large bush, and they get their roots spread out, they get very rooted in where they are. So it's a tiny seed that grows into a large bush where the wild birds can make their nests in its branches.